This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 3 of the Jumblethink Podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. We explore the ideas and dreams behind some of the leading entrepreneurs from around the world. Along the way, we will give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big ideas and dreams and change the world around you. Today's show is brought to you by FreshBooks.com. Get a free 30-day trial at www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. That's www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. Our guest on today's episode is Seeley. More about Bree in a moment. Our guest on Monday's episode is Angela Ferrari. Here's a little bit about Angela.
My name is Angela Ferrari. I'm an artist, a children's book author, illustrator, and the host of Story Spectacular, a children's story podcast. I love learning about the world and turning those interests into creative works. My stories might take the form of a book or a video or a podcast episode, sometimes all three. By sharing these stories, I can help listeners engage with their imagination and help support families and kids through those tricky times like bedtime and car rides.
Make sure to come back this Monday and check out our amazing guest, Angela Ferrari of Story Spectacular. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to make sure you know where you can find us. You can find us on all of your favorite places to listen to podcasts. Places like Apple Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and SoundCloud. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, swing on over to jumblethink.com/podcast to find links to many of the best places to connect. Don't forget to find us on your favorite places to listen to podcasts and click on that subscribe or follow button so you'll never miss another great episode of the Jumblethink Podcast. Welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. Super excited about today's guest. Her name is Bree Seeley. Let's jump in and learn a little bit about Bree and her story.
My name is Bree Seeley, and my business is me. And my role in the business is that I am the Chief Everything Officer. So my business was designed to help people bring their visions to life. So whatever that idea is, that little seed that's inside of you waiting to be brought out into the world, I help people really harness that and create that as their reality. I began down this path unknowingly 10 years ago as I became an entrepreneur. But the first business that I started as an entrepreneur, I closed 3 years ago. And that's when I started down this particular leg of my journey and becoming a coach, a speaker, and an author. I really think that my big idea started when I was just a kid. I remember teaching, like playing school and putting all my stuffed animals, in the desks and standing up at the chalkboard and teaching. I would go to work with my mom. And when I was 4 and 5 years old, I was training her employees how to use the cash registers. And so I've kind of always been in this teacher, leader, mentor, coach role, but I didn't actively recognize that that's what I was doing until about 3 years ago. I think my biggest points of knowing that I'm making a difference in the world come through my clients in their reflections of who they've become during their time working with me. I think that's when I feel the most lit up, is being able to be the facilitator for their transformation, for their journey. And that's really, brings me to tears and makes my heart expand and all the good things. So we are at a point in our history where, and I work primarily with women, especially, that women, for one of the first times, are getting the opportunity to be autonomous and really stand on their own. And a lot of us, though, are still carrying around the energy of needing someone else to take care of us, or needing someone else, putting our power in other people's hands in order to be successful in the world. And so I feel like I'm a catalyst to really support women in standing on their own, owning their power and executing what it is that they're here to do without anyone else's expectations, without any shoulds, without any, cultural roles really defining them. They get to choose who they are and how they make a difference in the world. I have been dealing a lot with finding my own inner foundation. Again, like I said, a lot of women we're taught by Disney from such a young age to find our Prince Charming to take care of us and to solve all of our problems. And, I've worked with this to a varying degree for many years, but as I peel back one layer, another layer presents itself. And I'm building a 7-figure business right now. And that means that I create my foundation and that I have to be the one that takes responsibility for that foundation. And so that's really over the last several months what I have been personally working with and growing into. So I just briefly mentioned my next big goal, and that is I want to be a 7-figure business owner. And that's important to me for a myriad of reasons, but the most being that it is really time for women to start having a bigger say in the world. And one of the best ways we can do that is to start having economic independence. And so for me, it's less about the money and more about the change that I get to make in the world because of that economic independence that I possess, and the way that I then get to take that and change other people's lives in the meantime.
We'll be right back with our interview segment with Bree Seeley. But first, for you, the listener of the Jumblethink podcast, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to try out their services. FreshBooks is the easy-to-use invoicing software designed to help freelancers, small business owners, and entrepreneurs to get organized, save time, invoicing, and get paid faster. FreshBooks is built to support the needs of growing businesses just like yours. On average, customers double their revenue in 24 months. FreshBooks can also help you spend less time on the boring tasks like paperwork, invoicing, and reconciling your expenses, and freeing you up so you can spend your time on the parts of the business you love. To learn more about FreshBooks or to start your free 30-day trial, just go to www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. That's www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. Now let's jump into our interview with Bree Seeley. Bree, it's so great to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for taking time out to share your story and great insights into the world of entrepreneurship.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on season 2. This is awesome.
You are like doing so much stuff. You're a life coach, an author, a speaker. You help women find mission and purpose to really go deep, and you've been featured everywhere, like the Today Show and Inc. and Forbes and the Huffington Post and on and on and on. How in the world do you keep going when you've got so much going on?
One of the things that has really been highlighted to me over the last 3 years is that as an entrepreneur, we tend to look outside of ourselves a lot. We tend to, especially service providers, we want to be of service. We want to give and give and give and give and give, which is great. But if you're not first filling yourself up, if you're not first giving to yourself, if you're not first receiving all of the goodness that life has to offer, you're going to be giving from an empty well. And so I have developed a practice, a daily practice. It started thanks to Hal Elrod and the Miracle Morning. He's a lovely, lovely man. And it's over the last 3 years that has morphed and changed and transformed. And now I have a 3-hour morning practice where I get to fill myself up. And that's my time to be in my heart. That's my time to nourish my body through, breakfast. But also this morning I took a 3.5-mile walk. But some mornings I do suspended yoga. But I meditate, I do visualizations, I do hypnotherapy. I have 2 cats and I snuggle with them. And if I don't have that time in the morning to fill myself up, I am of zero service to anyone else in the world. And so that, I think, is the cornerstone to every successful entrepreneur. You have to take care of yourself first.
I think that's really good insight because I know even for me in my journey of entrepreneurship, it's so easy to get stuck in the mud of every day and the things you have to do and the things that you should do and the working on the business and in the business and with your
Yep.
clients and everything. And it's just so easy to lose sight of where things are internally.
3 years ago, I found myself like I would get up and I would immediately, I'd grab breakfast and immediately open my laptop, and I would go to work, and then I would work until 9 o'clock at night, and I'd just go back to bed and then get up the next morning and do it all again. And I felt like I was running a marathon, but on a hamster wheel.
Wow.
Like I was getting nowhere. I was putting out all this energy. I was feeling empty and depleted and exhausted and angry all the time, which isn't me. And so that's kind of when I made the shift. And I knew it took me a while to implement the daily habit. In fact, I talked to Hal at one point and I was like, I just can't get started. And he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I know that the second I implement this, everything about my life is going to change.
Yeah.
And it did.
That's so cool. And I think of our world right now, and as an entrepreneur, it's easy to get stuck in the trappings of what everyone else tells you should do.
Yes.
You get stuck in the hustle. You get stuck in the this is the next best method of marketing. This is the next best way to reach your clients. This is the model that you should use. And so often we lose ourselves in that. We lose our own identity.
Yeah.
And that hustle takes over and we're not living life. We're just trying to survive and make it through the day. How can we really start changing that mindset of hustle and watching what everyone else is doing and then saying, oh, that's the next thing I've got to jump on?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest successes that I've had in my business and how I teach my clients is to tune all of that stuff out. And I actually was just on a phone call with a potential client, and she's like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing webinars. And I was like, cool. If that feels exciting to you, if that lights you up, if that feels aligned for you, absolutely do it. But if you're doing it because you think you should or someone else is telling you to do it, it is never going to produce the results that you want. The only answers about your path and what's going to work for you are on the inside. So if it feels good, do it. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. And so for me, all of my biggest pivotal moments for my business have come through meditation. I, shut down my first business and started coaching. That came through meditation. Last year, I did a 7-day Facebook challenge and ended up making $100,000 in 90 days.
Wow.
That came through meditation. This year, I was told in meditation that I was writing a book. And I was like, cool, what am I writing about? Like, tell me more. Okay. And, my book launched in November. It immediately hit #1 status. I ranked #1 in 4 different categories. I'm now 6 weeks in. I'm still ranking at #2 and #3 in all the categories that I'm in.
Wow.
The book is going amazingly well. In under a month, I made back all the money that I invested in the book and now more, right? So the best and biggest change that you will ever see in your business has to come from within. And if you're constantly looking outside of yourself for the validation, for the answers, the things, you're going to be searching for a really long time.
I think of so many times I talk to business owners and I hear them say the same thing. Something deep down's telling me this isn't the right choice, but so-and-so told me that this is the right thing. This is the thing I should do. This is the next step. And why do we so often let the external voices impact us instead of really taking that time or even just being aware of the inner voice and really taking stock of what it's telling us? Why do we get lost in let that voice get that just covered by the noise around us?
Yeah. 2 things. One, we're shown from a very young age that the only reality is the one that we can see and touch.
Okay.
I talk a lot in my book about there's actually 2 realities happening at all times. There's I call it the spiritual world, which is all the things you can't see, the inner stuff, the thoughts, the beliefs, all of that stuff, universal energy. And then there's the physical reality. But we are taught and conditioned from such a young age. I mean, our entire educational system, our entire monetary system, like everything that we're taught since the moment that we're born teaches us to focus on the physical world. And we are taught that whatever's in your physical world is real, and whatever's not in the physical world is not real. And so that's the one thing. And then the other thing is, because we're conditioned that way, my second point would be, it's easier. It's easier to be like, well, so-and-so had success with this, and they say that this is the way to go, so I'm going to go do this. And it's harder to do the work to get in touch with yourself, to understand your inner voice, to really clear away all that inner dust, because you end up having to look at a lot of things that you might not want to look at.
Yeah.
Like my daily practice includes a whole lot of forgiveness for a lot of people that I would really rather not think about again. It includes a lot of looking at my own beliefs. It includes a lot of looking at my shadow of all these like things that have happened in my life that most people are just like, I'm good. We're just going to leave that on the shelf where it exists. And I'm just going to follow all these external shiny things that may get me some sort of measure of success. But, the thing that I'm learning is that external stuff will always be temporary. Always.
Now, I want to step back here, because a lot of people are going to be listening and they might get this false impression of what you're saying is, just throw away the voices outside. Don't listen to an expert. Don't do that. But that's not what you're saying. You're saying
no,
that you should keep it in balance with, it's got to stay in check with your internal. So if the voice outside is speaking to you and you're just not resonating with it, it's whether it's bad advice or whether it's just not who you are personality wise or the values that you measure, then throw that out. But if that person resonates with you and it resonates with what that inner voice is telling you, then you can actually really learn from those experts and grow from that space.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important. I run everything through my internal filter, right? So I have information that comes at me from my external world. And then I do the processing of, all right, does this ring true for me? How does it feel in my body? Do I feel tightness? Do I feel lightness? Like where's this landing in my body? Does it feel like truth? Does it feel aligned? And then you get to make the decision from that place versus just blindly giving your power over saying, well, they told me a webinar would work, so I'm just going to do that.
You mentioned you wrote a book. It's Permission to Leap is what it's called.
Yes.
And you mentioned also that the launching point for that book was in meditation. Tell us a little bit more about that discovery process as you started to dive into what is this book going to be all about? How'd you pick that topic, and how did, what is the topic actually? Permission to Leap, I guess is a better place to start actually.
Yeah. So the book is all about how to bring your vision to life, basically taking that leap of faith. People think that leaps of faith are this big, grand, external, event or happening or whatever. And the majority of taking a leap of faith is an inner process. Right. So I break down kind of like the 6 phases that you move through as you say yes to your leap. And the first 4 of them are all inner. They're all inner work. And then the 5th phase is actually going out and taking action and bringing that leap to life. So that's what it's about. And the way that it came to me was once I realized I was writing a book this year, I was like, cool. So how's this going down? What am I writing about? Where am I going to write it? All the questions. And I have a journal every year. And so I had, was working through my journal, and I put a piece of ribbon in the middle of the journal, and that became my point where I would just dump ideas. Okay. If I had a great thought that came to me, if I was in meditation and an idea popped in, or if I was reading an article and really jived with something that it was talking about, I would just start like brain dumping. On Sunday mornings, I would walk to the farmer's market, and on my way home, I'd grab a cup of tea and sit at the cafe and just journal, and just started opening up space to be like, show me, universe. Like, clearly you want me to write a book this year. I don't know. I'm just the human. I'm just here to write it. So you tell me, show me, what am I writing about? And I just kept making space and making space and making space. And I would go back through what I'd written, notes I'd jotted down, all these things. And little by little, things started clicking into place. And then I hired 2 guys to help me through the process of writing the book, sat down with them. We got really clear. We did the outline. in the outline, a 6-month training program came out of it as well. And all this stuff started clicking into place so that by the time I went to Seattle to write the book,
Okay.
and by the time I boarded the plane to Seattle, I was 100% ready and prepared. And when I got there, I sat down and in 2.5 weeks wrote the entire book.
Wow. Well, and so often people go, oh, I feel like I'm supposed to write a book, but they don't even know where to start in that process. What are some tips you would give them in that process, their own journey of writing a book, of what they could do to really set themselves up for success?
I would say the first step would be just to get curious, and don't force it. So if you feel like you could be writing a book right now, just start exploring that. Same like I did. What could that look like? What could I talk about? What am I excited to share with people? And just start making that space and opening up to the idea of doing that. Don't push it. If you're trying to write a book because, again, everyone says you should be writing a book and you're trying to force it, it's never going to work out well. So be curious, be inquisitive, make space, and just start playing with the idea. And then as it's supposed to unfold, it will naturally unfold. The other thing I would say too, obviously I am a coach, but also huge proponent for hiring coaches. Had I not hired those 2 guys to help me with this book process, there's no way that I would have 1, written a book, 2, written it in 2.5 weeks, and 3, launched it in under 5 months.
Wow. Yeah.
And the reason that, I had skin in the game, I was investing my hard-earned money into writing this book. And in doing that, I had to then become the kind of woman who was a best-selling author. And so I highly recommend hiring experts and people around you to for me, it forces my hand. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't think about writing a book anymore if I was investing in it. I actually had to sit down and write a book.
Right. And often you have to, when you're writing a book, really live what you're writing about. There's clinical, tactile, very factual books, but then a lot of the books that impact us the most are the ones that are written by an author that's experienced it. Can you tell us about your own personal leap and your jump into the material that helped you understand and learn how to take leaps?
So from that place of when I was 14 up until 20 years later, now 34, writing a book about leaps, this whole process for me was almost like a therapeutic process, because I got the opportunity to go back over the last 20 years and really look at, I took a leap there. And then when I moved to Italy, I took a leap there. And then, when I moved to Seattle, I took a leap there. And starting my business and changing my business and moving to LA and all these different things. And for me, it was just as transformative of a process internally as I knew it would be for my clients or whoever was reading the book. And so I did have a little bit of a detachment process, because I knew that while it was my experiences and stuff, it wasn't about me. And so I allowed the material that was coming through me to be my own transformative journey. And because it was transforming me, I knew that the words I was putting on the paper would also transform other people, but at the same time that it wasn't about me. It was about them and their experiences. And so it was really important for me to not only combine my personal journey, but I did also, there's a lot of scientific information in there, lots of physics, lots of psychological studies, things like that, and universal understandings and principles and things. And so for me, it was a little bit of a hybrid, that I needed it to also access a lot of people that had never had a spiritual journey before, or understood that they were on a spiritual path, all the way up to people that have been doing this for decades and decades and decades. And so I knew that I had to kind of be in the middle of that, detaching from the information and also having my personal journey in there so that I could speak to a broader audience.
Often leaps are held back by the same common thread: fear, doubt, and hesitation. Whether it's a personal journey, whether it's a career journey, these seem to be the biggest stumbling blocks for a lot of people, as I've talked to tons of people about this. What do people need to do differently so that they can overcome that obstacle and just really start moving forward with the leaps that are going to change their lives and impact the world around them?
Yeah, again, this all goes back to that inner landscape, that inner world, because a lot of any of the fears, doubts, hesitations, procrastinations that you're currently experiencing in your life right now stem from an experience that you had, say, in your childhood. Say right now you're afraid of cats because back in your childhood, there was a cat that jumped on you and it scared you, and your brain categorized cats are scary.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So now today you see a cat and your brain still processes the external information in the same way it did when you were like 3 years old. And so the only way to truly move beyond your fears, doubts, hesitations, and procrastinations is to go back and really, truly understand, recognize, and heal whatever that trauma was from when you were little. Because if you're not going back into your brain programming and being like, oh, I was 3 years old, a cat jumped on me and it scared me, does not equate to, okay, now I'm, 35 and this little 6-pound cat with no claws, is walking past me on the street. Like, that's not scary. And so we have to go backwards to really truly heal the root cause and like start telling different stories about that experience.
Yeah.
Because at 3, your perspective was very different than your perspective is now.
Yeah.
So the understanding you have of that experience as a 3-year-old is still running your life. And if you're not going back to healing those things, if you're just trying to move past them or ignore them, or like I said earlier, put them on the shelf, those fears, doubts, and hesitations will continue to run your life because they are what's programmed into your brain as truth and as fact.
So you have this video on your website, really cool video. And one of the things that you say that stood out to me and I thought was so powerful is that when you have these leaps, it's not just about you and the change it will bring to you, but the world needs you. And you've got to leap so that you can offer the world everything that it has. Almost like you're stealing from the world if you don't take the leaps that step you into your destiny.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and why we really need to start living our life to impact the world around us?
Yeah, we get in our own ways a whole lot. And by us getting in our own ways a whole lot, we, like you said, literally rob the world of the gifts that we have inside of us that we came to this planet to share. And we let those doubts, those fears, those hesitations be our guiding light, which then impacts, so say I hadn't become a coach. I look at the women who have worked with me and how even women I've worked with 2 years ago continue to message me and say, everything you taught me is still impacting my life every single day. And if I had gotten in my own way, I just look at that and I'm like, how selfish of me would it have been if I had continued to allow my nonsense, my stories from, when I was a kid to continue to run my life, because these women whose lives are now changed, who are now then out there changing other people's lives and continuing to spread, allowing their leap to impact other people's leaps and give them permission to do what they're here to do in the world. Had I been that selfish, I just I have to take myself out of the equation.
Yeah.
And I really have to, a lot of this book, honestly, was channeled. I would just get into state and put my pen on the paper and be like, what do you need to say? What needs to come through me? Because this book isn't about me. Yes, it's my voice. Yes, it's my name. Yes, it's my, reputation, whatever. But I'm here to be of service. And if I'm letting my stuff get in the way, then not only am I not being of service, I'm being of disservice to the world.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I want to pivot right now onto a topic that's so in the forefront of, I think, every American's, North American life right now. And that's the conversation of women as a whole. And you work primarily with women and helping them get to the place that they're really reaching their potential and living the lives that they're called to live. Tell us a little bit about some of the obstacles that women specifically have in the entrepreneurial journey and how they can really start to overcome it and reach the potential of who they should be and who they could be.
Yeah, I think one of the things as women that just honestly sucks. And I'm not saying that this doesn't happen for men too, but I know it especially happens for women, is that we are placed with we're burdened with a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
I remember, so one of my personal stances is that I'm child free. And 5 years ago, I had surgery so that I cannot have children. And as women, you know, someone had a kid or something. I forget the exact situation, but the baby was only a few days old and it was a girl. And someone made a comment about when that baby's a mother. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She like just took her first breath. And you guys are already placing this expectation on her of something that she may or may not want. Like, why don't you let her decide who she's going to be in the world? Because she already knows. It's already inside of her. But now she's going to grow up thinking that she has to be a mother because you just put that on her. And as women, we are, and we have been for so long. You know, we're born and immediately we're supposed to be mothers, and we're supposed to be well-behaved daughters, and we're supposed to be homemakers, and we're supposed to this, and we're supposed to that. And we have all these expectations, everyone else's expectations placed upon us. And the one thing I've learned over the last several years is that a lot of women have never even asked themselves, what do I want? And I had a 45-year-old client, and she told me that when she started working with me, that was the first time in her life that she ever actually answered that question.
Wow.
What do I want?
Yeah.
And I think as women, we are in a place in time in history where not only do we have the opportunity to ask, what do I want? We have the responsibility to be answering that question, and not just for ourselves, but for future generations as well. All these things are being stripped away from us, and now is the time. It is our responsibility to stand up and take responsibility of what we want so that we can change the world. Because if we're continuing to sit back and again, let the external world dictate who we are, we're only going to continue moving backwards.
What are some questions that people can be asking about, you know, you asked that question, what do I want? And I remember a couple of years ago, I was even asked that question by a business coach and mentor I had. And, you know, you're specifically tailoring that to women. And I think it's a great question for them to ask. But what are some steps that we can take in that journey to really discover that? Because it's great to start with that question, but sometimes it's hard to dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say start small.
Okay.
Another great question too is like, what do I need? So if you're sitting here right now in this moment and you're like maybe in a little discomfort or whatever, what do I need? Do I need to go take a walk around the block? Do I need to just breathe for 5 minutes? Do I need to go get myself a little snack? Is my blood sugar running low? Like, do I need a hug? Do I need to call a friend and have a good cry? What do I need right now? Just right now, in this moment, right now. And that's a really good place to start. And the more that you can start to get in touch with your needs, then you can start to get in touch with your wants. And then to take it even deeper, like I said earlier, I want to build a 7-figure business.
Yeah.
Why? Who cares? Who cares about someone having a 7-figure business?
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Why do you want what you want? Why do you want it? And like really drill down. Well, I want it to have economic freedom. Okay, well, why? What does that matter? What does that even mean to you? What does that look like? How does that feel? And you can spiral down into the depths of like your core values. Like, what are the things that really drive you in the world? Mine are integrity, passion, and love. Okay. Those are my 3 core values.
That's really
cool.
And
granted, that's taken some time for me to get to, right? This isn't just an overnight process, but it's building that muscle of continually asking yourself those questions. And they seem like such simple questions, but oftentimes those are the hardest ones to answer. Yeah. And so it's just continuing to practice that and allowing yourself to go to that place where you give yourself permission to have needs, to have wants, and then to fulfill them.
It's really, really good. That's really good. You also have a training course around all of this, and it's the same topic, Permission to Leap, and you've got your podcast too. Tell us a little bit about the course and what people may gain if they want to go past just the book into that course?
Yeah, so the course has a similar structure as the book, but it takes things deeper. And then, of course, you get, personal feedback from me. You get a community of women around you to support you, because let's be honest, like taking a blind leap of faith by yourself is terrifying, right?
Yeah, for
As it
sure.
should be too.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I would not have made it through this year without about like a core group of 5 women that I have in my life.
Yeah.
And so I like to build that into my programs, because then you don't feel like you're out floundering, swimming in the middle of the Pacific by yourself with no life vest, no boat, no nothing to help keep you afloat. And on the days when you're feeling like, God, I don't know if I can do this, you have, 20, 30, 40 other women to lean on and say, guys, can you help me today?
Yeah.
And that's so important. So it's a lot about taking your leap. It's also about having community. It's also about having someone like me in your life to reflect back to you the truth versus what your mind is telling you. And we go through like the commitment process, building daily habits, healing some of your doubts, taking inspired action. I do a lot of EFT and tapping. Within the next few months, I'll be certified in hypnotherapy, like just all sorts of things to really help you develop that inner resiliency, become the woman who has successfully executed her leap so that your outer world can transform around you.
That's really good. You mentioned, of course, the training course, the book, you've got the podcast. There's a lot of great resources, and there are going to be people that are really resonating with you. How can they find and connect with you?
Yeah, I am pretty much the only Bree Seeley on the internet. I think
Okay.
there's one other one, but she's not me. So my website is Bree Seeley. My Twitter handle is Bree Seeley. My Instagram handle is Bree Seeley. And I am on Facebook and LinkedIn as Bree Seeley.
Very, very fun. We'll be right back with our rapid fire questions with Bree Seeley. Before we jump into today's rapid fire questions, I want to make sure you know where you can find us. You can find us on all of your favorite places to listen to podcasts. Places like Apple Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and SoundCloud. You can also find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, you can swing on over to jumblethink.com/podcast to find links to many of the best places to connect. Don't forget to find us on your favorite places to listen to podcasts and click that subscribe or follow button so you never miss another great episode of the Jumblethink podcast. Now let's jump back into today's episode and our rapid fire questions. We're back with Bree Seeley. Bree, are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Yes.
Our first question is, what is one tip you would give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
My best tip would be to start a daily practice. Whatever that looks like for you, have some sort of daily practice, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour. Do something to start building that inner foundation and getting familiar with your inner landscape.
What is one change you'd like to see in the world?
Oh my gosh, this is the hardest question. Everything. All of the things, everything. Our political system, our monetary system, our educational system, our healthcare system. Is that a sufficient answer?
Yeah, it's probably a fair one. What do you want your legacy to be?
I have so many ideas I want to start foundations like I talked about with really educating women and girls about sexuality and their reproductive rights and really giving women the tools they need to be successful in the world. So I see foundations, I see multiple training courses. I want to have coaches working under me. I want to be speaking all over the world. And I mean, I know it's so super cliche, but the pinky and the brain thing about like, oh, what are we going to do today? I don't know. Let's just go change the world. That's kind of what I live by.
Where do you find inspiration?
I read a lot.
Okay.
I just finished a really great book about healing codependence and really diving into co-creation. So I read a lot of self-help books, but kind of obscure ones, not necessarily the ones that this book I just read was written in the 80s. So not necessarily like the top 10 that are on the Barnes & Noble shelf, but yeah.
What is one book you think every person with a big idea, a dream, or an entrepreneur should read, and why?
Well, great question. I would have to say permission to leap.
Okay.
Is that corny? Is that cheesy?
Oh, it's fun. Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of misunderstandings out there about what it looks like to actually take a leap of faith.
Okay.
One of my favorite books was The Big Leap, and I started talking to a lot of people about it, and they were like, yeah, but you get to the end of it and it leaves you hanging like you're about to take your leap, and it's like over. What do you do? And so permission to leap is really kind of picks up where that left off of like, all right, now you're ready to take your leap. Now what? Now how do you actually create that in the physical world around you?
Yeah, always good to get hyped up and then dropped off at the end with like,
right?
Oh, okay, so what do I do?
I'm standing at the edge of the cliff. Now what? How do I leap?
Yeah. What is one tool that is significant for the success of your business?
Outsourcing.
Okay.
As an entrepreneur, if we are trying to do everything ourselves, we are going to always hold ourselves back. So I always have a team of interns around me. I'm hiring my first assistant. I just getting other people around me to be in their zone of genius so that I can be in my zone of genius. My zone of genius is serving people and speaking and being on the platform with the megaphone, like sharing and disseminating information. And so for me to be writing all of my social medias, all my tweets, scheduling my newsletters and my blogs is just a waste of my time and energy. And so absolutely delegating and outsourcing.
What is one habit you find helpful in your life as an entrepreneur?
My daily practice for sure, because like I said, that's my place where I get to work on my inner foundation, change my beliefs, change my thoughts, implement my habits, and really set myself up for success.
How do you start and finish your day?
I start my day feeding my cats because they won't let me do anything until their bellies are full. And I usually end my day, and then I have a series of practices and rituals getting ready for my day. And then I end my day kind of unwinding, going backwards through all the same practices and rituals, that I went through to set up my day to end my day. And then usually cuddling one of my cats.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing?
That is a great question. And I don't think I have an answer to it.
Okay.
Because I think that this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
The final rapid fire question I ask every guest is, what is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
So my initial first answer was like the easy, obvious one of, bringing to life this 7-figure business. But, and then I was like, that's a little cliche. And I've already kind of talked about that. So my real answer is that I am ready to meet my husband. Oh, and cool. I'm excited to be in partnership with someone and to be co-creating a life with another human and really be doing awesome things together. So
very, very cool. Bree, it's been a lot of fun. Before we go, is there one last thought you want to leave us with?
Whatever it takes. And this is in my video and this is on the end of every single podcast, like whatever it takes for you to leap, whatever you need to do yourself and the world a favor and find out a way to make it happen. Because like I say, like we talked about earlier, the world needs you. And by you playing small, by you playing to your fears and your weaknesses, you are doing the world a disservice. And there is no one but you that can bring to life that vision that you have inside of you. And the world is literally begging you to say yes to that. And if you don't believe me, do this. I just did this the other day. It's hilarious. Go on Google, go to google.com and just Google the word news.
Okay.
Everything that pops up on that screen in front of you should be proof to you about why the world needs you and why you should say yes to your leap today.
That's so good. That's so good. Bree, thanks so much for taking time out, giving us some insights into the world of entrepreneurship, your life journey, and encouraging us on our own journeys. It's really been a lot of fun.
Thank you. This was so great. And again, congratulations on season 2.
Thanks. Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Bree Seeley, for taking time out to share her story and give us some insights on how you can find permission to leap and start chasing that big idea and dream. As always, you can find links to Bree in our episode notes for today's episode. Our guest on Monday's episode is Angela Ferrari. Make sure to check out that episode this Monday. Chasing that big idea and dream can be difficult. Here at Jumblethink, we're trying to make it easier for you. One of the ways that we do this is through our resources pages on jumblethink.com. We have a recommended reading page where you can find some books that have helped us on our journey of chasing our big ideas and dreams. You can also find our recommendation for podcast equipment. Not only will these amazing resources help you on your journey of chasing your big idea and dream, it also helps to support the Jumblethink podcast when you purchase through those Amazon links. So start your journey today. Swing on over to jumblethink.com, click that resources page, and get going on that big idea and dream you have. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. It means the world to us that you would listen to our amazing guests and our story. I hope that the episode has inspired you on your journey, whether you're starting out or you just need that little boost of confidence to keep moving forward. I hope this episode's given you that fire. Ultimately, the world needs you. It needs you to shine your light, to spread that gift you have, and to ultimately make that big idea and dream a reality. Thanks for tuning in. Now get out there and do something awesome to brighten this world.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps. Vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.